Greetings, welcome to the Grumpy Gardener's Medicine Show, Episode 4. I've decided that not only will we do medicinal plants and that sort of thing in this separate show, so the people who are not interested in that subject will be able to tell. And so this should be an ongoing thing. I had a brainstorm the other night thinking, geez, you know, Bill's not a doctor. What's he doing talking about medicine? But I am a person who uses medicine, like many of the rest of you. I get illness, you know, from time to time, as you well know. But the one thing that I consider myself more or less an expert on, and that's how to grow plants. And so many of these medicinal herbs and things we use can all be raised right here in the garden. I've decided from now on the format will be, we'll discuss some of the world issues and things about medicine and this, that, and the other thing, trivia, and then the second half of every show from now on should be about some plant that we consider to be useful, medicinal, in some cases even, you know, food is medicine too, but I'm going to try to focus on some of the common plants that we use. Today's show will be about turmeric, which I'm sure that will please plenty of people. And it will also be about growing turmeric even if you live in Minnesota, Florida, Arizona, South Carolina, don't matter where you're at. I think we can figure out how to get this to work for you. So after I posted Grumpy Gardener Medicine Show number 3, and where some of the viewers and I had agreed with them, and we discussed the whole idea about digital addiction, screen time addiction. I didn't get specific on the video game, but I think most of you are well aware that that possibly is one of the most cloying. I mean, these video games really produce a lot of dopamine flow. And so I was contacted by a viewer from the Netherlands who says, hey, today the Netherlands just decided to classify video gaming addiction as an addiction. And I went, oh, gee, gosh, you know, while ideas circulate, you know, in the world and whoever, why it came up then, I don't know. But then I turned on my nightly news, and here we go. The World Health Organization, who? World Health Organization, WHO. They, through the UN, they came up with an announcement that their science indicates that just abusive level of video gaming is now considered an addiction, just like drug addiction and a few other things we can become addicted to. So I just want to rub and buff my own apples here, because you folks and the Grumpy Gardener, we were there first. Only by a few hours, but we were there first. You know, I have long considered video games to be an addictive thing. My son's gone through this whole thing. I myself am not a gamer. Okay, I don't play games at all. The last time I played games, it was things like poker, checkers, Monopoly, Chinese checkers, board games, a little bit of chess, but I've never been a chess guy even, you know. But these old-time classic games, life for me got way too busy, and I'm too occupied and preoccupied with what it is that I actually do. I don't have time for the games. I relax probably playing my guitar if I need that kind of de-stress, and so I don't do this game thing at all. I mean, I don't even play poker anymore because I hate taking money from my friends, and I hate losing it to them too. So even the classic games are kind of off the board. I guess if kids came around and wanted to play some, I might do that, but that's about it. So, you know, I don't really connect to the amount of time that we spend with these silly things, but I do understand, with all the sounds, the lights, the great graphics, and so forth and so on, how people are drawn into these things, and you know, they lose track of everything else that really matters. Humans aren't the only creatures that become addicted. I've witnessed that ant colonies can become addicted to stray voltage. Watch for this one. If you ever get an outside outlet or an outside switch or that sort of thing where you see streams of ants flowing towards it, and sometimes the switches and that will blow out because the dead ant bodies will short them. What you're seeing is ants that have become so addicted to stray voltage that they don't do anything functional anymore except buzz themselves with a little bit of current that spreads out around a wet outlet. And so addiction is nothing special to humans. Now, the World Health Organization, of course, is an international organization, and already some of the European community are beginning to take this point of view that, you know, gaming and digital stuff can become an addiction, just like heroin. In the United States, the American Association of Psychiatrists, I don't know exactly, anyway, the American Psychiatric Board, has thus far declined to accept this information as valid, which is perfectly natural here in the U.S. Their response was, it requires more study. Boy, have I heard that one before. But, you know, European community has so much socialized medicine, and when you have that kind of thing where the tax dollar is really paying a lot for your health needs, you don't have this capitalistic intermediary, you know, like insurance companies. And I really would say in the United States, that's the biggest issue we have, with suddenly deciding that something is an addiction, because when it's an addiction, it can be treatable. Then there need to be doctors who are programmed to treat it, and insurance companies have to respond by paying for these treatments if it's considered to be a true addiction. So you got a capitalist problem here. That's really what it is, and it will take a lot longer for the community in this nation to adopt these principles. But as you already know, viewers in the Grumpy Garden Guy were here first. We knew that long before the American Board of Psychiatrists is going to accept it as fact. You know, I will include also, I extend this beyond just the games, because in my mind, anything that can produce a pleasure spike in the brain by releasing dopamine, anything that does that for us, and that includes sugar, can become an addictive action or material. That addiction, generally in the United States, is usually bundled up with criminal behavior. We do have a few types of addictions identified in psychiatry otherwise, but in general, the laws of the land and so on see addiction as being people on crack cocaine, heroin, and certainly, yes, they're addicted. We have realized that cigarettes are an addictive material. That's qualified. But there are so many other things. And I mean, screen time, the amount of screen time, social media stuff. Every time I go on and I look, and the viewers have come back to me and they said, "Oh, Bill, that was great. I get a dopamine charge. I love it, you know, it's great. I like to read them all and I respond, you know." But of course, then I go through, you know, 50 of them, and all of a sudden there's one character out there who says, "You're an idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about, and your fingernails are dirty." Well, I'm a gardener, but, you know, and yeah, it affects me too, but I'm not a teenager, you know. You can say what you want about me. I already know who I am. I delete you. You know, that's how it works. But, you know, I understand that whole thing. And so we do have more addiction than just games going on with this. I also am concerned about virtual. I think I mentioned that yesterday. That similar, you know, this whole thing. Anything that can produce these pleasure spikes in the brain, and we just turn them on, let it run, and we start to get that reaction, can become an addiction. It depends really how you regulate it and on your personality. Some people are more prone towards it than others. Good health, you know, you can't buy it. You can't give it away. You either got it or you don't. And when you do, it's a wonderful thing, especially as we grow older. You know, as far as growing older and medications and things you will do and will not do, I know that there was a day where, because of side effects on pharmaceutical drugs and a whole lot of other stuff, I was really very much against, you know, modern medicine, and I still think that they deal way too much with symptomatic issues and not so much with the core issues, so that we don't actually really cure very many diseases. We just kind of band-aid a lot of them. We treat symptoms. And that I don't really appreciate. I would like to be going, you know, if my blood pressure is high because I eat too much salt, well, then the heck with the pills. Let's stop eating the salt. That's kind of the way I see life. So, yeah, it's a crossover. But the older and older I get, I realize I haven't got that much time left on this planet anyway, and I have to question, what am I preserving my body for? Because Because within the next 30 years, microbes will eat me into a pool of protoplasm, and I'll be worm food, you know. And so, you know, you start to look at things like artificial joints and implants and drugs that may have side effects and blah, 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 blah. You know, it can get to a point where you kind of give up on the whole purist concept, and I will basically use anything that seems to work, that doesn't seem to be overtly destructive, if it'll get me another year to a life. That's kind of how it is. I'm not into organ transplants, no. Anyway, so onward to turmeric. This morning I'm going to prepare some fresh turmeric with my morning eggs. Because I don't purchase it dry in the store, I grow it here in the garden. Being able to use the fresh root in tasty and effective ways is important to me. It costs little or nothing to raise your own turmeric root. This was pulled out of the landscape here yesterday. I've washed it and scrubbed it off a little bit, but I'm finding my favorite way to use it is scrambled in my morning eggs. So the main ingredients in this morning's eggs are going to be fresh chives from the garden, some sweet onion from the garden, the turmeric that we've just peeled, and over here I have some ají dulce, a little bit of sweet pepper, and then the turmeric. And so to prepare my turmeric for eggs in the morning, I just cut this stuff into nice little thin slices like this. I'm using about the joint of a finger here. Do that. I cross cut it the other way. I just try to mince it as fine as I possibly can. Also, like most roots, like carrot, this doesn't really digest well in the system. Carrots and other types of roots that we eat are oftentimes quite fibrous, and they'll go right through us. And the same would be with turmeric. And so if you want to gain value from this, you want to make sure that it's reduced into fine particles so the body can absorb it. Here I have a hot pan with some organic butter in it. Adding the ingredients to the butter. And to the pan I am now taking some black peppercorns, and I'm frying them in here to help release the active ingredients, give them a better flavor too. It's just about ready. Soften the peppers a little bit more here. Time to crack the eggs. One-handed. Ooh, smells wonderful. Okay, scramble here. Dig in. Turmeric black pepper scrambled eggs with sourdough toast and a banana. Right here in the garden we have a turmeric plant that I am continuously raiding. That's winter and summer. This one guy here seems to supply me with most of the root I need, but lately I've decided I need more turmeric, and so rather than just stripping this one poor little root, I'm going to start a planting project today that will do it on video. But I'd like to show you what the turmeric plant looks like. It's very much like a canna lily, actually. We have a marker stake right next to it there because despite the fact that this plant is growing in a tropical environment, it is fully deciduous during the wintertime. And so turmeric will disappear under the soil and you won't see it again until spring comes. This is just emerging, first shoot off the plant this year. Now I rogue roots off of this quite frequently, and so it's going to come up pretty well thinned out with just a couple of tops, because what I'll do here is I reach in under the plant, I'll dig into the soft soil around it and pop off stuff that looks like that. So here we got a great big old chunk of turmeric. Gonna need a little cleaning up, but that's a good one, and that's what it looks like when you first take it out of the ground. That's how I harvest it, here in the farm at least. I just reach under the existing plants, yank some out, and I tend to leave mine in spot. Now, you could garden this like any other root crop, like a potato or a carrot. You could dig it entirely up and replant it all. That works too, but it's perennial here in Hawaii, and so leaving turmeric in place to grow works out quite well. Now, that piece of root that I dug up in the garden had a nice bud eye right there sticking out of it. So I went ahead and I cut off a chunk of the root, like you see here, containing the bud eye, and I placed it in a container. So this is going to be a dual purpose. We have propagated some more turmeric from that bud by planting it in here, and I have a piece to use in my food. What I'd really like to show here today is how you can grow turmeric in containers. Since turmeric does die back in the fall and doesn't reemerge again until spring, one problem is that when you plant it, you either have to dig it up before it dies back and use it, or well mark where it was located. Well, one of the things that works out here is that if I grow it in containers, then I always know where it's at, and this potting soil also makes it very easy to harvest with the fingertips by just reaching in and snitching a little bit of it. It grows fine in pots. It's a good choice for that. Unfortunately, it will spend the entire year in the container here before you actually have anything to show for it. It'll take a full growing season to grow yourself a crop of turmeric. And so what I'd like to do today is I plant some turmeric plants in here. I'm going to add Italian parsley. Italian parsley has many health benefits, antioxidant qualities, etc., etc. It has massive doses of vitamin C and vitamin A, and it grows very, very quickly, and it can be cut and cut and cut and harvested again, and it will grow okay coming up around some turmeric. That way we get parsley in the planter as well as a late harvest of turmeric. Another reason why I'd like to use these containers is because this plant is deciduous. And it does go full dormant in the winter. Like I said, I got to mark it here in Hawaii or I'd just lose it. It does mean that people living in the northern tier who would like to grow fresh, homegrown turmeric, either for seasoning or for its well-known anti-inflammatory qualities, that's the main reason I use it, you can do it inside containers like this. And then in fall, before it gets frozen, the containers can be moved in and stored, say in California, probably in the garage, in Minnesota, maybe in the basement. It stays dormant over the winter, and so you can move this stuff in and out. Ginger will do the same thing, by the way, and we will move on to ginger in future shows. Anyway, so for today we're sticking with turmeric, and you can do this no matter where you're at when it's in a container. Right over here, I have a whole bunch of turmeric roots that I planted last year. They rooted in, and they are ready now to begin to come up out of the soil. I see the bud eyes are beginning to form on this one, so they're in the perfect stage to do this work. And so I often go to the farmer's market, and if I find turmeric that seems to be budding up, I'll bring it home, I'll stick it in a container, and all of these had top growth last summer. There was top growth up to maybe 8 inches tall in these containers. Now it's gone dormant for the winter, and it has not quite yet emerged for spring. So, as I said, it's perfect for planting right now. All right, so I'm judging that I have room in here for probably at least one turmeric plant right in the center of the pot, and I probably also have room for a couple of parsley. Now the turmeric is, of course, the most durable of what I'm growing here, and so I'm going to place the turmeric root inside the pot first, putting it right there in the center and tipping it upwards towards the sky. Yep, this one here has a nice bud eye coming right there that's going to come soon, so I'm going to use that one in this pot right here. Like I said, with these types of roots I usually stick them in at an angle with the buds pointing upwards. Works best. Alright, there. Now we've got the turmeric in place. Now I'm going to take the Italian parsley, and I'm going to stick it in either side here adjacent. Parsley's well rooted in. There we go. That was pretty simple, huh? Now, I wanted to use an organic fertilizer in here, but I seem to have used up all my pelletized chicken manure. So, to make sure that these things don't starve to death till I get some more, I am going to use a little bit of time-release Nutricoat in the pots here. Not putting a tremendous amount in there, but I did put in enough to get these guys going. I'm also checking here to make sure that my turmeric root is exposed up in the sun there so that it warms up and starts to send out shoots better. I'm working the fertilizer into the surface a little bit with my fingertips. There you have it, folks. That's all there is to it. Turmeric and parsley in the same container, and you can do this from Maine all the way over to Hawaii, and it's going to work for you no matter where you're at. You can shop turmeric root in your markets. I'm sure if you look around the natural food stores, you know, or sometimes also Asian marketplaces, you can find these fresh roots. And that's the easiest way to get your hands on the plant. Here we find it right in the farmer's market. Other places in the U.S. you may see that too. So aloha, hang loose, and stay healthy. Be well.